This is the Mezgers Only Podcast with your host, Aaron, where we talk all things Mezger. This is Mezgers Only episode 1. Yeah, 101. It's 1. So I'm Aaron Johnson. I run Mezgers Only. If no one realized that, that's me. And if we do end up doing the video, you'll see my face. If it's just audio, well, you can check the Instagram. I might be on there occasionally, my face. So I just want to do a podcast because there's not any Mezger podcast. There wasn't a Mezger's Instagram that I liked following, so I did that. So I figured that the undertaking of just 12 episodes, I'm not going to inundate people with 52 episodes or how many ever it would take to fill up the year, skipping holidays and such. So I would make it easy, digestible, and fun because I think that would get oversaturated over time by doing too many episodes. So I've had my car, 997.2 GT3, for, I believe, 3 years. And if it's not 3 years, Kristen's correcting me right now while she's listening to this, which is my wife, because she knows exactly how many days we've had it. And before that, I had a C2 997. And before that, I had a 944, which was my intro to the Porsche world back in 2008-ish. It was, I guess, good. I bought that broken and it ended broken. They caught on fire. So long story. Anyways, that's a little bit about that background. As far as like car stuff, I've been into car stuff since I was 16-ish. I had an El Camino, 83 El Camino. Swapped motors, broke transmissions, broke rear ends. I sheared a inch thick chromoly pin and a rear end in half from what my dad claims me dropping it in neutral or from neutral to drive, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think that happened, if I remember correctly, if I'm telling the story. But things like that. So that's a little bit of the car past. I lived in Germany for a bit, so that really got the Porsche bug fueled again before I came back and got my C2. I've been to Nürburgring a ton. If you do that, let me know, reach out. I still have several friends and people around there. We can make it happen, museums, all that stuff. So I did that as well. But the main thing for this is just to get to know people in the Mezger community and share about I do a drive called Strasse. We'll get into that a little bit later and just get connected with other people because it's a smaller community than you think. And some pretty good. I haven't met a bad Mezger person yet. They seem to have the same taste, so it kind of aligns. And I like that. I mean, now whether you're a turbo guy, you're a naturally aspirated guy, that may be a debate, but they're both fun cars. And today we have Josh, and I call him Josh Caggs because I don't know his last name. And I know it's probably hard to pronounce, but that's who's on the podcast. He goes by Josh. As far as I'm concerned, or Caggs, but I know him as Josh. So welcome, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it. My last name's Caggiula, but ever since really like baseball in high school, I went by Caggs. It was just easier for everybody to remember instead of my long Italian last name.
That's Italian's fun though, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of stuck. So just quick intro on me. Aaron, appreciate you having me on. Met Aaron last year at the first annual Strasse event. Yeah. At the Tail of the Dragon. He reached out to me last year on Instagram, which is really where I post a lot of stuff about my 997 turbo, manual turbo 2007. And, it was last year was me turning 40 along with a couple of my friends. So we made a commitment to do the trip and do something that we've never done before. So it was an awesome event. But just a quick intro to me. So I live just outside of Philadelphia, about 30 miles west of Philly. Have a wife, 2 kids, and 9 and 5 are their ages. So really busy with them. And I've worked in pharma and biotech my whole career. In terms of cars, I've liked cars since I was a little kid. Probably, as I learned to walk, I was pushing little cars around. I have literally one of the first cars on my desk here that I keep as kind of a reminder. It's a little old original. I think it's a 964. And it makes this like little clicking sound that I don't know if you could hear that, but like that's like memories of pushing that around, like probably a lot of us that are into cars still as adults. But that little car my mom kept my whole life. I didn't even remember it until a few years ago when she gave it to me, and that kind of sparked my pursuit of hopefully getting into a Porsche one day. I started out like you, Aaron, just sort of wrenching on. I had a Volkswagen Jetta that just had every electrical issue you could imagine. It was a
it's a Volkswagen, so that's par for the course there. Wow,
Yeah.
What year was the Jetta?
A 95. Just the 4-cylinder 2.0. It was. I think like I would drive down the road and the windows would just go up and down on its own.
Wow.
That kind of problem.
Very useful.
Yeah. So like it was, I grew up at that era where, Fast and the Furious was out, and like that was the scene. That was like Honda's, Japanese
Underglow everywhere.
Like that kind of sparked my initial interest. And I've loved cars really forever. Really around the time I turned, over the last decade, I'd say, turned 30, I got into BMWs heavily. So
Yep.
Started getting into like turbo, N54, 335s. I was into that for probably about 5 years, modifying, tuning, braking, tuning. And my goal was always to have a Porsche one day. And a friend of mine had a 997 turbo. And he bought it when it was really at the lowest point in terms of value. And, they were still new, but not new enough. So when I saw that car, I just fell in love aesthetically with it. And then over time, just, that was sort of the goal, is to get into a Mezger turbo one day.
Was it, what color was it? I mean,
it was actually gray. It was a gray,
so very similar to
very similar to what I ended up getting. Yeah, he's one of my. It was Nick. Nick came to Strasse as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So Nick's had that for a long time. And again, when I first saw that car, I was just blown away. Just how wide it was. And I've been in the turbo world of BMW for over a decade, and that was kind of the natural progression for me.
Yeah. Once you go turbo, I feel like once the turbo's in your bloodstream, it's like it's hard not to have that whoosh sound and that shove that happens at any boost point, which I didn't really appreciate until driving my dad's car. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like I driven other like older 930 turbos and things like that, but I hadn't driven a 996 to that point. And so that was a big eye opener. Something I all to you for doing that, because I don't know. I just feel like I'd be sideways in whatever curve I'd be heading, like just boost sideways pushing. So Nick's the one that got you hooked on the 997. Was there a big hunt? Like how long did it take you to find the car, or you're like, all right, I want one of these, and there we go?
It was. So it was like during COVID, I had a M2 competition. I had the first year of the M2 competition. Loved that car. Got really into modifying it, sort of sharing that journey on Instagram with the BMW community. And I sold that really at the peak of value. With the pursuit of, okay, I want to start educating myself on what type of 911 I wanted to get. My journey really started with, I wanted something with back seats because I wanted to be able to bring my daughter and son. At least, buying a Porsche is a very selfish endeavor sometimes as a family guy, where, my wife could care less if I have that car or not.
Which is nice. I mean,
I think she's happy for me, but at the same time, it's a selfish purchase. But she was very supportive in that. But yeah, having back seats was important, and I started playing around with, do I get a GT3 and throw some back seats in it or retrofit that, which would be a really cool thing, maybe one day to do. But I think I got a little bit, again, this, shows my ignorance to the Porsche world at the time. This is like 4 years ago, where, getting the rear wheel drive 911, not having experience driving that was a little bit intimidating at first. How do I ease my way into the 911? And, I think in that $100,000 price range, you're looking at, I was looking at Carrera T's, like 991.1 Carrera T's that, you could easily tune. And I knew I was going to try to modify something. And, I looked at Carrera, C2S, 997s, but 997 was definitely the generation that I wanted. I didn't, as a newbie to Porsche world, I didn't appreciate the 996 yet. It was kind of,
it's a striking look for sure. I think the only reason that maybe it's just time. I think that's what it's taken for the classic look, and that's what everybody describes it. I feel like this is more classic, but I think it's still controversial for most people. But
yeah,
it's starting to come into its own because now it's the only one that looks like that. But it also harkens back to the GT1, which is where it started in the first place. So
yeah,
I can see. I was kind of in the same camp as you were when looking for mine. I was like, maybe I could do a 996, but I'm really a 997 guy.
Yeah, it's a classic look. And I know your dad got the 996 turbo, when we got to see that on the Strasse event, got to meet him. He was, I don't know what he's done to that car, but he was flying in that thing.
He's fearless. That's what it is.
He's fearless. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I was a little scared when he was driving behind me trying to, keep distance.
We chit-chatted offline about that. I was like, you're new to this. This is really, it's a lot more because I drove. Did I drive it? No, we drove separately. So he only it was stock for all of 2 hours. So it was stock. He got the tune with the car. Or he happened to have it. And it's a Marsky tune, stage 1, I believe.
That's the one.
So it's somewhere in the 500 range from everything we can see. Yeah. And so he had Corey with he put that tune on as soon as he got it, and so it's always been decently quick, but he wasn't getting into it. And he let me drive it with another friend named Josh, of course, and then it rips. It's so fast. But I agree. The turbo cars are where it's at. So you like the 997 just aesthetically? It's very symmetrical as far as design goes. Everything seems like the single headlight design, and everything seems to flow. And then the turbo just has the width that the other cars didn't have back in the day. Now all of them get that wideness, but now it has that extra love to look at factor.
Yeah. The presence of the 997 turbo, when it's next to other cars, you can just tell, it's a special car. Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me the most about the 997 turbo, and I had driven in with my friend Nick's car a couple times, and I think it's completely stock, mostly his car, and it's very quiet. It's it's kind of a thrush of speed, and I knew when I got my car, it was 100% stock. That and the guy that I bought it off of, actually in Florida, not too far from Orlando, still a good friend now. He's a good friend that I stay in touch with. Again, it's a small world. He sold it because he's like, just reminds me of driving an SUV or a 4x4. I'm like, you're crazy. I was like, I think it's because he was a air cool guy primarily, and he loves that.
Too refined for him, I guess.
Too refined. Yeah, too nice of a car.
I can see that. It actually has air conditioning and heating and things.
Yeah.
Some people like to have creature comforts.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love, I haven't gotten to really experience much air cooled stuff, but eventually I would love to dabble in that.
Whole new world.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, again, with the family and, do I want to put my kid in a 10, 15-year-old car or, a 20, 30-year-old car? And, I
Okay,
think,
I see you approaching it from a safety thing, and the way
yeah,
you describe the whoosh, and that the way that I always think about a turbo is more like an executive jet, where it is
yeah,
quiet, it's got the power, but it's still can get down. Like nobody expects it to be as sporty as those cars are. I feel
yeah,
like it's like, oh, it's an old man kind of spec, just chill,
yeah,
but they're so fast and so capable, and to know that Porsche horsepower numbers are way different than than anything. It seems like, no matter
yeah,
what they say. I mean, it's the way that it's able to put it down. And then I know you said you're a little apprehensive about the rear wheel drive, but still the way the bias is for those turbos. I mean, you get a lot of that feel with a little bit of front wheel pull where it's not
yeah.
so intrusive. I think it's a good thing. Did you go for the 997 as well as for size wise? Because if you start looking at the 991s and other models like that, they are bigger, like
Yeah.
by a good bit. But I
There,
mean, I guess I'd be a happy medium for you then, because the 997 is going to be, or the turbo is going to be wide. So that
yeah.
991 is probably comparable, and a
Yeah.
non-turbo version.
Yeah. I think, and this is where my discovery of, I think, Metzger came
Mhm.
into play,
Okay.
is really when, I started to research, number one, it's a big investment. It's my first
Yeah.
foray into Porsche, and it was a car I wanted to buy, as much as I could without financing. You're not going to be able to really finance something like that. So it was, what's going to hold its value the most, what's special. And
Yeah.
as the more and more research I did and friends I talked to, was like a manual turbo, last of its kind with the Metzger,
Yeah.
is just, they're becoming harder and harder to find, you know really nice examples of those cars that haven't been tuned to 1,000 horsepower or
Yeah.
something crazy. So I, to go back to your question around, did I find it immediately? It was, I was looking at the same time. I test drove the 991, the Carrera T, and the stock ones, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. It didn't feel as special. It didn't feel, like something, if I start to modify this car, which was my plan, was
Mhm.
to sort of go down that road a little bit. Um, I think the turbo is what popped up first, and it was a really mint, mid 30,000 mile
Super
manual
clean.
turbo. Really low mileage, really clean. No accidents, and it was maintained by a dealership actually right in Philadelphia here, the Porsche of the main line. So I called the service advisor, called another dealership that had done some work on it in the past few
Mhm.
years. So I had a really good confidence with the buyer, with the car,
That's close
and
by, seems like. So like that's a lot of those selling points. Like, all right, not too
yeah,
far from me. All right, not
yeah,
not the way that I got mine, but yeah, I can see those. That's good that you had a good side of like service records and things like that. You could talk to people. That definitely brings the warm and fuzzy for you, especially for your first one and wanting it to be
yeah,
pretty much the first and last purchase, if that was going to be the case. Like, and you're
yeah,
not worried about it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It was just, it was a scary purchase, but it was at the same time, if I needed to sell it, it's something that's going to hold its
Mm.
value in a couple years. And I think the journey has been something that I've tried to pursue modifying it to be sort of in between the soft executive
Mhm.
jet you talked about
Yeah,
and a GT car,
yeah.
and tried to, and the sort of OEM plus
Oh yeah, plus
modification,
plus. That's yeah.
OEM
That's
plus
that's
plus.
that's that's where a lot of people, I feel like, who like a little bit of modifying things, they get to, especially
Yeah.
getting closer to the 40-year range, 40-year-old range. I feel like that's just what we do. It's just like, all right, we do
Yeah.
like things a little louder, but it doesn't need to be as loud as possible. But like
Right.
it still needs to be somewhat rowdy and fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you started doing the research on the Metzger stuff, were you surprised, like, oh, these internals are built like insane? Like, why would they engineer something so
Yeah.
far? And then I think a crazier point, and I'm sure you know, is like them being built off a 964 air cooled block. That's cool. Like, all
Yeah.
right, so we automatically have some air cooled stuff in there without
Yeah.
going in that world. For being like, I guess not really a parts bin motor, but more of a race motor. And that's a weird direction that they could have done a number of things with, and they just went that way. They wanted to win races, apparently. I mean, that's how that motor became what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I exactly right. I mean, I read a little bit about the racing history with the GT1. I didn't know at the time that the block, had gone back as far into the air cooled world as it does. I think that's the really cool thing with Porsche. The more I've learned about it, you see that very methodical evolution of using parts that have been really like proven or trusted and worked.
It'll work again.
Like they're okay, this doesn't break, so don't change that.
Exactly. Increment maybe, but change it. No, we're good.
Yeah.
And I was thinking too, like for your first foray into Porsche, you nailed it on two iconic brands, being one, the 911, and then the Turbo, because I mean, 911 Turbo has just been what Porsche is known for as a flagship for so long. So that's got to be something too. That's another thing that I think would make it special, at least in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I didn't realize how special it was until I've had the car now a couple of years. I think, it was kind of that stepping stone of like, going from BMW, I was, I wanted that power, and it was like, do I, the turbo was like the goal, but I thought very quickly, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a clean one, or one that was in at the time, the price range that I was looking to spend. And I'm so happy that I went that road, and it's been a little over 2 years I've had that car now. And, I have done the coolant lines, we pinned the coolant lines, and,
if you haven't done it, do it, because I definitely, it's been a few friends now that I've seen like, oh, have you done it? No, I'm good. And then track day happens. And then if you're lucky, it happens at a time when it's like, all right, I was on, maybe doing something minimal, and then it happened, not during a mountain run or a track day or something. Like, you just don't, it will happen because it's a known issue. Like that adhesive is a thing. Did you get them pinned, or did you get it welded? And did you have, what's your opinion on that, or either or?
Yeah.
Just get it done. Is that your?
Well, it was at a time where, so it was a little over a year ago when I had just a very small coolant leak, and it was, only when the car sat for a little while, when it was running, it was, just a little coolant leak. I had always seen that, pinning is the way to go because of the risk of, if it's not welded correctly, and if a weld cracks,
you got a big hole leak.
Yeah, then you got a really big issue of replacing big, larger parts and all of that. So, but I've also heard the contrary from, our buddy Ed that was on Strasse as well. He's I think he only, would believe in welding, and we've debated that, back and forth. I think if you have the right,
I like stirring up controversial topics on this episode.
Yes, you need to get Ed on here to defend that, because I don't know. Sure. I don't know if he. I think he knows some welders that
I do. I had mine welded, and the key to this whole process is having your welder do pressure test. And I think once that's a thing, or if you need yours done, let me know. I'll talk to the guy that knows the other guy that does the welding. Yeah, he's out of Orlando, but that's what he did for my dad's, and that's the pressure test is definitely the key to that. I mean, otherwise, and I've seen. There's a third option. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but they take the fittings and they knurl the outside of the fitting. So it has some type of like design pattern. And they take JB Weld and they do the outside, and it locks in. And supposedly it's supposed to be just as good. Don't know that this is a thing. I am the problem
Is that the
I
at
don't.
home, the do it
I
in your own garage version?
No, there was a garage doing it. There was actually some guy out of California that was doing it and has, I
Oh,
don't know, a few kind. I mean, I don't think it's to a scale where I could trust it, and I've definitely not heard of
yeah,
anybody doing it. But
yeah,
I guess there's a third option
interesting.
if you want to really roll the dice, and like if you're like, well, I don't want to do either one of those things, and I do want to do some replacement. We'll just see if this works.
Yeah, yeah. I think the decision for me to go with pinning, I became to trust a local shop near me that the owner was going to hand do it himself and has done it. They were doing it on a GT3R 997 GT3 RS at the time, and mine was going to be second in line to do it. And I basically the use case. So if you're planning to track the car, welding is probably definitely the way to go. My use case is going to be street use, fun, weekend use. I'm not tuning it to over 700 horsepower, so
Not yet.
not yet. Not yet. But yeah, for now, I drove it from Pennsylvania down to the tail of the Dragon with not a single hiccup or issue with the engine. So it's been now flawless since that was done, and that's been a few thousand miles, and I'm really happy with it.
The internet, if it wasn't invented, no one would know this stuff is the thing. You wouldn't worry about it. It would be like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
But then it's in any post. Hey, did you do this? And then you have another issue with the RS is the cams being pinned. There's
yeah,
cam pinning. So
yeah,
if you have an RS car and your cams aren't pinned, I
yeah,
want to look into it as something.
yeah,
So you landed on 997, found the Mezgers the best thing ever.
yeah, yeah,
And then so you were always looking for a turbo because that makes sense with your 335 days. So that checks out.
yeah,
And your VW to BMW to Porsche also
yeah,
is in alignment. I bet you that is a 95% rate of everyone. I know
yeah,
Ed's still into Volkswagens. I had a Mark IV GTI, and then the 944, and then moved on up.
yep.
Yeah, so
That's the
that's
natural
interesting.
progression for sure. There was a couple G35 Infinities in there that
I cannot get behind that sound. That VQ motor is just not. It's not for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was the before I could afford BMW days.
Okay, so you had a little in between stand. We don't talk about it. Well,
Yeah,
I guess we did.
or any the Mercedes I had in between there too. That was not
Mercedes
my.
are fine. Mercedes are fine if you're into losing money. So that's if you like wasting a lot of money, just go buy an AMG. Just
Yeah,
watch that depreciation happen immediately.
yeah, yeah,
So I guess on to Strasse, we can talk about that. I didn't. So that was your first type of mountain driving event that you went to.
yeah.
All right.
It
So that
was.
ruined you because you had a good time, from what I
Yeah,
hear.
yeah. That was a blast. I mean, again, it was one of those things I've always wanted to do it,
Mm,
and turning 40 and a couple friends of mine wanting to all do it together. You know, the timing was perfect. I think you reached out to me at the perfect time, and then
yes.
it all came together. And yeah, I mean, it was the most fun I've ever had in terms of a car event. I mean, it was again you and Kristen and you organized it perfectly, but at the same time, got to meet people from all over the country
Networking.
out there.
It happens.
Yeah, meet their bring their Metzgers in there, and like you said, we all kind of that first night you don't really know anybody, but
Yep.
within 24 hours, everybody
We have a
is
text chat. We have a group text that is. I cannot believe that it's still going, but it's
yeah,
still going. Like that's something. Besides like the Instagram and stuff like that's something that I didn't expect. Like I've done mountain stuff before, but I think just the group's different. It's just a
yeah.
different feel.
I think it was the right
we're all
size
together.
too, Aaron. I think it
That's true.
was 10 11 people or 12 people,
It's
and
cozy.
it was cozy. It was just enough time to get to know everybody, that came, and I think some bonding experience when shifting cables fail
Oh
in the
yeah.
middle of
I
the
mean,
run.
nothing like trauma bonding.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, and the fact that So we can talk about that. I'll give a little lay of the land as far as what Strasse is. So Strasse was something that I thought would be cool to start after the Instagram kind of got a lot more followers than I ever thought it would be. So I thought, I already do a mountain drive, so I can probably do another one, but this is going to be all Mezgers, which I haven't heard anybody doing. So let's give it a shot. So what we do is we start out in North Carolina. I have a lodge that I work with, and we reserve a block of rooms. I do like one set price for all this, and we do it over 5 days. Now it's going to be an extra day, so it's going to be normally it's 2 days of driving. This year it's going to be 3 days of driving. The reason for that is the traffic has picked up since all the horrible stuff that happened in North Carolina last year. A lot of it's picked up around different areas. So the goal there is extra day of driving, a little bit more manicured as far as maybe in the morning. We hit some good stuff in the morning, like the choice roads, and then the afternoon maybe just break off and do your own thing if you want. That sort of thing. So it's a 5-day event roughly, where we stay at one place. We have dinner at the same place every night. We do lunch in different spots. We have fire pits. I bring in leaders. Well, we'll probably have leaders because I plan on maxing it out this year. But last year we just had one leader, but normally I'll have a leader per every 10 cars. And they'll know the routes, and it's a lot safer environment. They live there. They've been doing this for years now. That way we don't have to lean on anybody coming in and doing that aspect. Then I do custom merch. I do different awards and giveaways. So it's an all-in-one, all-encompassing fun mountain trip if you've ever wanted to do it without you having to do anything besides show up and have fun. Like, and we even we cover alcohol for the most part, and it's a good time. And then the thing I'm going to like about this year versus last year is timing's changed. We're moving it towards September, which is going to get more of the fall weather. It may not be like cold, but it's going to be probably better timing than August was. I think August was that school time really messed with some people as far as kids and things like that. And then just summer. But I'm going to release all the dates. I know a ton of people are on the email list. That's the other reason I think it's going to be about 20 something people, because that email list is pretty deep now. Because my dad was asking, he's like, well, how many people do you think we're going to have? I'm like, a lot. All in all, so it's a curated driving event, and I do stuff like this for Europe. So this is low table stakes for anything versus what I've done in the past. But it turned out that it was a lot better time. And I think if nothing else, the networking piece is, I think, the best part of it. I mean, getting to meet some new faces, see things like I've never would have seen Dave Brown's turbo build. I would never think those Fuchs or whatever he has on there would work on a 997. But I got to see that. Or Tom out of Rhode Island with his 700,000 mile turbo which I didn't realize this build. Like, I didn't know he had GT2 wheels and different things like that on it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. And he tracks it.
Yeah, he's super nice guy. Like, thankful for everything. I'd say if you like driving, there'll be that. And if you like just good people, I think there's that too. So I'll drop the dates. It's going to be in September. I'm still working on the cost. That's why I haven't really dropped dates yet. The one more day added, it's going to be a little extra cost, but it's not going to be much. They're actually working with us a lot better than they did last year for rates and things. So
that's great.
So
Aaron, I have a question for you though, because it was before we went, I didn't necessarily know what the name Strasse meant or where it came from. So tell us.
Oh, do you want to? So it just means road in German.
Road in German.
Mm-hmm.
So
road or streets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my other event that I do is called Fahren, which is driving. And I like, if I'm going to brand something, I like to be a single word. And then hopefully it's not too hard to say. And then so I figured Strasse. And then I like, I don't do Coors beer a lot, but I like the logo enough. I was like, this looks similar. And so I did a little play off that. And so that's where a lot of the script comes from and kind of the design. And what I'm going to do for every year is kind of just change up, keep the icon the same and just change up the different colors, but it's always Porsche related. Like the blue that I used last year was from the GT3 RS for the 996 that started all this.
Okay.
And then this year I'm going to do the pumpkin RS orange whichever orange it's called. I get corrected all the time, but I think it's RS orange, which I thought was signal orange, which it's not.
Oh,
Been told that, so learn something new.
yeah.
But that's pretty much Strasse in a nutshell. It's a driving event for Mezgers Only, and I think that's one of the coolest parts. If well, all the different driving events out there, I think niching down to something like this is cool, and then getting to see stuff outside of what you would normally see. Like I'm trying to get some cool stuff out there. Like I was telling Josh earlier, if I can get the 2RS there, cool. There is a few GT2s and other stuff and a 4.0. We'll see what I can get out there. But I think this year, with the more marketing and more prep, I think it'll be a full house. And a full house is still less than 30 cars. And that's all it'll ever be because that's all that place holds. And the lodge is on a river and it's got fire pits everywhere and it's all cabins and there's some in lodge staying, but we'll have the whole thing to ourselves. That's the goal that I have for the event. And outside of having a great time and good atmosphere with the September weather, which I enjoy way more.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just to add, Aaron, I think, my experience, it definitely far exceeded my expectations. I don't think again, it was, I'm very active on Instagram and, we chatted on Instagram, never met, I didn't know the face, that went with the account, just like you didn't know the face. And it was a little bit of a, leap of faith of, getting to know you and seeing who else was going to come. So as like the months leading up to the first event, Dave from Rhode Island with the 700,000 mile turbo, he reached out to me and you want to drive together. And so it quickly became an event where, when we arrived, we drove over the course of 2 days, me and my buddy from New Jersey. And once we got there, again, I think having you and Kristen, organize everything and to just kind of like not have to worry about that was really nice. I think it was, a couple of the buddies that I brought down with me. I think we were a little bit nervous of like, oh, where are we staying? What are we doing? But I'm like, just trust Aaron. He's got it all figured out, and you've done this before, and it definitely exceeded expectations because again, we didn't know each other before that time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's another thing too, that I knew that the first one was going to be a struggle because that's where I have zero credibility with you, like none.
Right.
So you just know me from like, all right, cool. This is weird. Just add a random ask. Let's see if it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I knew that had I not done that last year, that it wouldn't be anything. And that's the same thing. I also have aspirations if people are listening to do something in LA. Or in the Monterey area. We'll see. Because I want to at least do maybe East Coast, West Coast, Midwest deal.
Yeah.
I think there's enough people, at least on the East and West Coast. We'll see if there's enough people in the Midwest that want to do it. But eventually I'll get there. I also don't want to oversaturate myself with trying to plan too much and not. I want to replicate the experience we have in the East Coast, and right now it doesn't exist. For the location that we have, the roads, the access to the people that I have to lead, that's what makes it a better experience than I would say for most. And I'm sure, like you said, you didn't know me, so you could figure it's just like doing a cars and coffee. We're just going to meet up here. It's going to be randomly, fly by night. Who knows what's going to happen? And I also don't send out routes and I don't do stuff like that. So there's a lot of times where I could probably be more informative than I am, but there's a reason that I don't do that. My reason is I like for people to be, I like your expectations to be is like, oh, okay, I'm blown away by this. Like, I like to have a little bit of element of surprise in the thing. It's not that it's not planned. It's just, it is planned. And I'd rather you be surprised by like getting, all right, this shirt is, okay, these are heavy quality shirts. All right, I got this. I got coasters that were embossed. Like or I got gummy bears from Germany.
Yeah, I have it right on my desk
nice.
right here.
Same like that.
This is like I wasn't expecting to get a nice leather coaster, Aaron.
Yeah.
That's cool stuff. Really cool.
And just different things. And I had so what we did know before, but we do now. Tom was planning on driving Pikes Peak. I guess for his million miles. So he's got 700. I don't know if it's 700, six something. I don't remember what
It was definitely over 700.
it's
Yeah, I think
seven something. So he still has, I mean, that's so many miles to go. But for his million miles, he's planning on doing Pikes Peak. Well, I do a raffle. And so he randomly won a poster. And so I got a poster of Jeff Swartz Turbo on Pikes Peak. And then Jeff was kind enough to sign it for me. And so he signed it and sent it to me. And then I got that randomly happened to be gifted to Tom, which is now framed up. So like,
yeah,
things like that happen. And that's the type of thing that I would like to not tell people about. And then all of a sudden, cool. Like I showed Josh earlier, something that's going to be one of the awards. And I think it's pretty cool. And no one has one of these. This is definitely well, I say that. I know there's at least maybe 50.
yeah.
No one's doing a giveaway like this. And then I'm going to probably do some other stuff. For my other event, I did a couple giveaways that the other European people wouldn't do before, but I got them to do a taxi ride with a GT3 RS on the Nürburgring or Spa. Cool. So one of my partners out there, and then I was just doing myself. I gave away a private museum tour for Porsche Museum. So I'll probably do something similar. And more awards. So and the awards are 1/18 scale auto art cars. So those are $300 to $400. Go look them up, especially you start talking Mezger ones.
Yeah,
they can get pricey.
Yeah,
but that's pretty much the event. I mean, if you're into Porsches, if you're nerdier and love Mezgers like we do, I think this is going to be the thing. And I'm trying to get some West Coast guys to come out here too, which I almost had a couple people from the West Coast come out, but their race schedules conflicted. So
yeah, I've had a few friends, Aaron, that want to come, and I said, well, you know what, you don't have a Mezger, so you need to go get a Mezger.
Yeah,
so
and that's
a different one.
All we're doing is this repeating on a Porsche thing, make it limited. Pared down experience as far as the amount of people that can be there anyways, not just the car thing. And then it'll drive the want and the lines to get in the event, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I've already looked at different venues and stuff, but I don't know that I can get away from the venue that we use.
Yeah,
until I see something more spectacular, because that coming into that those mountains and that mountain wall off, and then a bridge, and then seeing the lodge there is just, that's something when you first see it, you're like, all right, and this is pretty cool.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I agree. We basically, my buddy Gabriel and I, we stayed overnight in Virginia Tech, right on the campus of Virginia Tech that's cool. At a hotel, and then woke up early. And the plan was to go on the Blue Ridge Highway and make our way down to the Poco Lodge. That sort of like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Unfortunately, Blue Ridge was closed, or a portion of it was closed, so we got routed. But we found some roads on the way there, just kind of by luck, that were awesome, and then I think right near where some of the damage happened last year, we stopped and we got our cars washed and stuff before we got to the lodge. So it was just an awesome day. It was. I don't know if I would drive it again. I may try to trailer next time.
I can see that being. I mean, it's a pretty good bit. There's also a detailer on site, so I'm working that out as well. A couple other things, a couple other new things that'll be some cool details to add in.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
Because I know it's always a pain to keep your car clean. It's the mountains,
especially me when I'm pretty anal about it, even though it's.
I can imagine that you like it clean. So
let's PPF. That's good. We're all good now. But yeah, like to what you were saying though, coming in there, the roads kind of just winding, long sweeps against the mountains, like. It was epic. I mean, it was really cool. And then again, grab a beer or a burger along the water there, and you watch all the different cars go by or come in. And
that's the other thing is it's just like you would be like an entrance to a track or something like that, where it's just constant car traffic that just happens in that area.
Yes.
Because of the dragon. And I'm like, It's so close. That's the other thing too. That's some of the premise for being in that area. Other driving events that I've done, I would start in Georgia, and there
Yeah.
was just such a length. It was like a 2 hour drive to get anywhere that you would for good roads, or some of the roads that we drove, and that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to eliminate there. And finally, randomly, it wasn't a random spot. I had a friend that stayed there before that really spoke highly of it. And I was like, well, let's give it a try. And then so
Yeah.
it'll be my forever spot. At least, I mean, if events die, I'm still gonna go out there and stay there and do that. So
Yeah. It's a special place. It really is.
I think it's cool. So I mean, it's good that it exceeded your expectations. Well, what did you? Well, like, let's go back. Let's roll back to that. Like, what did you think it was going to be like? What was your? I mean, or you just
Um,
had nothing to base it on. It was your first time, so I don't.
it was my first time. I think, because it was a group of, I think, four of us from like Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, Northeast coming down together, that month leading up to it, my buddies are starting to get nervous about like, well, are we going to be able to, break out or do our own thing, or that, like, there was just a lot of questions. And I, like you said, you communicated, very clearly about the expectations, but that uncertainty, was there. And we had never stayed at the lodge before.
Yep.
We had never been down at the Dragon. So, I think that's part of like what you said, the uncertainty, is what I think led to.
It brings some anticipation to it, and I think
Yeah. And we
I think
got there and it
that's
was awesome.
yeah. I think that is also something that's overlooked if you're ever planning events like that. Is you have to have an anticipation period, and like but I mean, I was talking about this months in ahead. Like I already had reserved the dates. Like I know the dates, and I've known the dates since last year
Yeah.
because that's how far advanced. So we have to be a year out on these type of events, and that's the other reason I didn't want to plan more than one event, because it does take this time and for designs and orchestrating a bunch of different people, like even reserving the leaders and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's just a little inside baseball to like, it goes well because it takes months to get it to a place where it's going to flow correctly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
but
think
we're gonna,
having your contact Josh
yeah,
as well. I think, and having that, like, you and him kind of lead the group to the right roads at the right time
yep,
to avoid traffic. You know, those are all things that, you can do that yourself, but it's a lot of work. Like you said, a lot of planning. You need to know
go ahead.
the roads.
Yeah, go plan
I
it.
think,
That's fun. Have fun. I mean,
yeah,
you're not going to know what connects together well. You're not going to know.
right.
I mean, you would eventually, but for the people that live there day in and day out, they're like,
Yeah.
and all right, well, this road works well. And the other thing is too, not only is it just the person that lives there that leads, we have state workers and construction work and like other people that can go, all right, this road is no good today.
Yeah.
Or like this has not been trimmed. And like a road that we use called Road to Nowhere is literally a road to nowhere. And you have to know where it's at and know if if it's even passable, because sometimes it's overgrown.
Yeah.
Like there's things like that, and that's part of the magic of that aspect of going to an event where it's been thought out or at least gone through a few times. And
Yeah.
I probably could have communicated better and do routes more. I don't know. I don't know why I don't like doing that. I just like the surprise thing. Like I know what's going on. Don't worry about it. Trust me, I guess is my thought process. But I mean, again, if I have no credibility for you to trust, then I can see why there'd be a little bit of trepidation there for the first timers. But
Yeah.
that's good that you won't be your first time going this time, and then people. I mean, this year's going to be better than last year by leaps and bounds, in my opinion. I mean,
Well,
who doesn't love a fish fry? There's gonna be a fish fry. Be good times, and
yeah.
it's like like some type of trout. I don't know my fish very well, to be honest.
Yeah.
I told
Fish is
my
fish.
dad about it. My dad was super excited, so I can only know that it's probably tasty.
Yeah. No,
That's what I know.
I'm looking forward to it. I think the other aspects of it too, like as I mentioned earlier, like I ran into an issue second day with my car, and I was the only one. as you know, Aaron,
Well, I mean, it's a ratio. So
what's that?
I said there's a ratio of cars to problems, and that's,
Yeah,
I mean,
always one. I for some reason it seems like I'm always the one, but I had basically my shifting cable, my numeric shifter cable popped out, so it left me on the side of the road. Luckily, was able to get it kind of back into place, but thanks to Aaron, thanks to you and your contacts, within I had options. I had options
yeah.
of getting it fixed, locally, or
Mhm.
had a shipper there within 24 hours to help me ship it back to Pennsylvania to properly get fixed.
Old Big
Basically,
Daddy Vlad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Always the sandals. Yep.
Yeah. I
Big
mean,
Daddy Vlad.
sandals are getting shipped apparently, because that's, I mean,
Yeah.
I told somebody about that story. I was like, I don't know where. I was like, I know the contact, and I don't know how he got here so fast, because I like, we couldn't get back that fast, and he had a trailer. So,
The
but
best part
he,
of it was when he got out to the bottom to the Topoco Lodge,
yeah,
he was visibly sweating because he just drove down the tail of the dragon with the trailer, like a dually. I was
oh,
like,
yeah, it was a good setup for sure.
yeah, it was a nice, but he didn't know the road or it took him that way for some reason. But he got the car back to Pennsylvania to my shop to, get it fixed within. He beat me home. I
Which is
drove it,
amazing.
which is incredible. Like the car was there before that, so hopefully I don't have any issues ever again. But I think trailering it down is going to be my way to go.
And there's plenty of parking for trailers too. So I don't know if you know this, if you didn't, if you're at the lodge, there's a place way off. It's not way off. It's just up past the cabins. There's plenty of rooms for trailers. So if you're looking to trailer your car, bring your trailer. If you're looking to fly and have it stored, if you want to ship somewhere and store it, I think I can work with a couple people near the Atlanta area that might store cars. I can do that. But yeah, I'm just hopefully just want to get 27 people that want to do what we did last year again, but
yeah,
one more day worth of driving. And I think that'll also spread out some of the tiredness too, because I noticed that I'm used to going up there for hours at a time, and not everybody's used to being on edge and driving for hours. And it's like, okay, it's 5 hours of doing this, 6 hours of doing this. All right, we're a little tired, but then it works out. I think it still works out in the end, but I think giving that extra day of acclimation slash um, driving and chill time will be good, because I think you and the other few Pennsylvania boys can just go break off in the afternoon and go run, Waya again, or run one of the other roads on the way back from lunch or stuff like that,
yeah,
and not have to worry about going all the way to the lodge and like, all right, well, we want to drive some more and then go back out. Like, it'll eliminate that factor. I'm also going to try to do. There's a media team there. I'm going to try to get them to do actual like follow us into some of the driving roads and get some good media coverage as well. So that's one of the other things I'm working on as well. So we'll have some memories. So
yeah, that'd be really cool. If
I don't know if I'm gonna, I probably do that, but I don't know if I really share a lot of that stuff on social media, just because the caliber of people that I want to join, I don't know how social media-esque they are. So we'll see.
Yeah, you may have to get a waiver in that.
Maybe a little NDA. That's fine.
Yeah,
that'll make it cool.
Yeah,
so
you could always do it. Just again, I posted some stuff during that week, and it was that was where a lot of people reached out and said, oh,
what is happening right now?
What are you doing? Why are you with all these other Mezgers? Like, what's going on? So, again, kudos to you, Aaron, for getting it together.
Had to be done.
Rolling.
That's just I don't know. I just felt like I was like, this has to be done. Somebody's got to do something in this. And I like the cars, like hearing the cars in the mountains, and that's the fun thing about having multiple groups, is like you go up there and you're at one of the lookouts and you're waiting on another group to come up, and hearing those noises just reverberate throughout all the trees and everything else. It's just good times. Yeah. And we didn't have any no police visits or anything like that. So we had the one, is it a cop? Is it not a cop? Is it a cop? Bike guide for some of our way home, or for the after lunch. But outside of that, I feel like it was a good time.
Well, that was another aspect that I didn't expect was the walkie talkies. I
Oh yeah,
think,
we do have radios that make a big
yeah,
difference.
like the communication of, the leader being in the front and being able to radio back, hey, we have debris on the road, gravel on the road. There's a cop up here. Like that was an
That's key.
unexpected, really nice perk
Yeah,
of, just
yeah,
give you peace of mind, like that you can rip it, at that period and,
yeah. It
be
gives you a little
safe.
comfortability there, and like
Yeah.
that's it's more of a safety move than anything, honestly. And it's a lot of people are like, well, why do I need a radio? It's like, oh, okay, because you've not driven at pace
Yeah.
in some of these roads, and then that's another thing too. Is like there's a lot of I feel like leniency and freedom to you think you've driven these roads, and then you have somebody that knows the road and can lead and make, oh, okay, well, I can probably take this a little bit quicker. And
Yeah.
that's the another aspect that we didn't touch on, but the reason that I like not only the Mezgers but having bigger groups is I can have a full turbo group. And so if your turbo car is going into a corner and you're not as confident or you are as confident, you can see that, all right, he took that this way. Okay. Oh, okay. That does work. That sort of thing. So you can
Yeah.
feel out your confidence a little bit better. And you know that braking point is going to be about the same and different things like that. Always
Yeah.
drive the road, don't drive the car in front of you. But in general, that's something that you can look out to be and have a similar style of driving. So
Yeah.
it helps you grow as a driver. And I don't have a slow group of that. Well, if I will put that out there, that just because you're in a group that's not labeled with a number one, that doesn't mean anything. That just means that
Yeah.
you're in group 1.3. That's what that means. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but don't let that scare you either, because we have leaders that I mean, if you're new to it and you're just chill, well, I have other turbos and stuff for the other and they're chill. And
Yeah.
you can be a group 4 and be chill and just still come hang out and have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think some of the guys that came down from Pennsylvania, they had been there before, and I think the cool thing about those roads is you don't need a 500 horsepower turbo to have a blast. I mean, you could
No,
have a GTI, you could, and I guess, again, I didn't realize, how winding, especially the tail is,
oh yeah,
in some of those turns. And that was, again, my first time doing it. But, the GT3s, like those are really, I think, those are the cars to have on those roads, the naturally aspirated, and with the issue I had with the cables the first day, I got a chance to drive Gabriel's
yeah. What did you think about that? I didn't I totally forgot about
GT3.
that. What you
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of worked out in my favor. He let me
two
drive
cars
his
for one?
GT3, and then Nick let me drive his stock, turbo. So got to kind of experience both in the same trip. The the naturally aspirated car, the GT3 just is made for those turns. It's just, the only thing is like you really have to rev that car out. So it
That I
was,
was gonna say you
as you
didn't go
know,
buy one after, so I know. So I imagine that torque that you feel, and that's like now that you say that, that's my dad coming from the world that he came from
yeah,
for V8s and things. I was like, that's your torque person, and if you know that about yourself, that's fine. You can be that person,
yeah,
but you're a turbo person, and that's that'll get you in and out of corners just
yeah,
fine. But yeah,
yeah,
you do have to rev it out. But I think that's the other person's kind of thing. Like, oh, I get to rev it out
yeah.
because now I get to go to almost 9,000 RPMs.
Yeah, I think I got to like 8,200 and I
Yeah.
was like sweating bullets,
You're like, I can keep going. Like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, it's like you're going to hurt the car, and he's like, no, you're good. I mean, those cars are just bulletproof. So it was cool to experience both. I think I was exhausted getting out of that GT3 after driving some of those roads.
How did
You really
you
have to
so?
manage.
How did you feel for like steering things like that? Because it's a lot lighter up front on those
Yeah.
GT3s. Did you feel less confident? Were you like, oh, this does not feel as nice as the turbo when I plant it in a corner and get on
Yeah.
it? Or was
Yeah, I
it
mean, I think
maybe
I was most surprised about how much grip the GT3 has. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like, again, it's all about tires, your pressure and all that. But they were really, really, it left me not wanting, in terms of grip in the front. So I think, it made me realize how much extra weight is in that, 4-wheel drive system in the turbo, that you feel that extra weight, the width in the turbo. So, they're just different experiences, but they're like totally different cars. I mean, you really very little in common in terms of the experience of driving it. But yeah, I think the naturally aspirated, more lightweight GT3 are perfect for those roads. The turbo, like, what's fun about that is you have to be really careful to stay in boost around those turns. And like when you're out of boost, like you're dead in the water. I mean, you're like, so you got to kind of stay in second and third. Back and forth.
I watched some GoPro footage for one of my dad's things, and I could just tell that I was like, oh, and when he hit a gear though, like that thing just so fast. I was like, he hits roads so fast. I was like, I'm sweating, and I'm watching the video. I'm like, all right, I probably would have done that, but he's had more driving schools and stuff. He's a background. He was a deputy for a long time, and before that's been a million different driving academies. So
yeah,
I'm sure he's capable. It's just me. Just me and my sensibility for myself. I'm like, nope.
Yeah. Well, I can verify that he was having some fun behind me. And, I got a little scared there a couple of times when that boost kicked in, and all of a sudden he's on my tail.
Yeah, and he's back. So what did you think between stock versus your car, the stock turbo? Were you like, well, I guess I don't need any of this, or are you glad that it's tuned? Or
well, I think I told a couple of my buddies this. I think the OEM plus modifications that I have done, which again put my car like right in the middle. Like it's raw. Like I upgraded the engine mounts, to the RSS engine mounts, and then I have sway bars, springs, and I'm switching over to a coilover setup this year. But
what kind of coilovers are you going to go to?
The Bilstein, the Damtronic ones.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to help.
That'll be a giant change.
Bit. Yeah, I think it'll be welcome. I also have the DSC controller and like a couple, like it's just basic mods. So it's I think mine's like a happy medium. The turbo, that thing, it was shocking because he has a stock exhaust and everything's stock except for I think he's on springs too. And it was like a comfortable racing around the mountains. The thing I miss though is like I have a Soul Performance exhaust with the Sport Cats.
Nice.
And it sounds awesome, but like with the stock exhaust, when you reach those higher RPMs, like it gets this like wail of a sound that you just can't replicate with the Soul exhaust. So yeah, I think it was great. It was a lot more like getting out of his car. You're not tired. You're
like, whoa, there's something to this stock life over here.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, maybe I should take some exhaust off. No. Again, I think I've kind of tried to balance that, in terms of stock versus, GT and go too far. But
well, it sounds like you got a good setup. So that's all you need then. And it was cool that you got to experience, like, to try all the different cars, not the way you want to do it. I mean, you don't have your car be broken and then have to ride with somebody, but it's cool that you get to drive the GT3 and then a stock version of your car to see if you're like, well, I mean, should I have done this or should I not? That's a cool place to be. And hopefully nobody's stuff breaks down at all. I think it's a good place to end it because I know you have a hard stop. You got to wrap things up anyways. So I think we talked about everything I want to talk about. We met Josh. We met me, obviously the host, Aaron, and got to learn that we should OEM plus our build. Don't leave it alone.
You could have another whole podcast just on that.
Oh, I mean, that's sure to be an episode. So we got 11 more. We'll figure it out. So
cool. Thanks for having me, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you for listening to the Mezgers Only Podcast. Please check us out on Instagram at Mezgers Only or on the website at mezgersonly.com. See you next episode.